Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. Yes, I know I missed a week, and I'm not even going to make excuses for it. I just didn't make a video last week, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I was tired. I've been tired a lot lately. I hope it's nothing serious. I don't know what it is. I'm just tired. I'm tired a lot. Plus, it was Halloween week, so we had some things going down. It is what it is. You missed me for a week, and well, I guess you got me back for this week. By the way, welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. My name is Steve Zimmerman, and I love doing this for you guys. I really do this for you. It doesn't make me any money, at least not yet. Who knows? Maybe at some point it will. But that's not why I do the show. I do the show because I feel like I have something to say and something to share with you guys, and that includes what we're going to talk about in this episode. And there's a lot of reasons why I've thought about talking about this, and we have touched on this. Oh man, maybe it's been quite a while that we've talked about classes, like legitimately, and kind of the why behind them. In fact, this episode I'm going to call Beyond the Permit, Why One Class is Not Enough. This is important because I see this a lot, so I think we should probably dive into it. Shall we get started? Yeah, let's do. If you're new to the show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I have a goal of hitting 1,000 subs, and if you've just looked at how many subscribers I have, you'll realize I'm a long, long ways from that. But I still have a goal of hitting 1,000 subs, and it still is, honestly, quite possible by the end of the year. But we'll see. But anyway, hit that subscribe. If you like the content, if you've watched content before, make sure you like it. And even throw a comment down below. I know that doesn't seem like much, but what it does is it lets YouTube know that, my content is worth sharing to other people. So if you wouldn't mind helping me out, that'd be fantastic. That actually helps me hit my goal. Another thing that I've been talking about are the Gundy Awards. Now, nominations are closed, but voting will open, I can't remember when. It's pretty soon. I think it's in... I don't remember. I'll look it up. I'll post it on the screen or something and let you know when nominations are supposed to start. When voting starts. And that would help me a lot too. I like being a disruptor sometimes. Okay, all the time. I think it's time to get more voices into the two-way creator community. And the Gundies is another way to help me get my voice out. I feel like my content's pretty solid. I talk about a lot of different things, and I think it's good. This episode should be something that's worth sharing for sure because it might piss a few people off. Honestly, I don't care if it does or not. It's information that needs to be shared. And like I say, the reason why it's going to piss people off is because a lot of people think, hey, do I need to take a class? Or they get into the mindset of, well, I've taken a class. Do I need to take more? I already know what I'm doing. No, you don't. No, you don't. To both accounts. If you haven't taken a class, you need more training. If you've taken one class, you definitely need more training. Let's talk about that. As of the time of this recording, 21 states require a permit to carry concealed. 29 states have jumped to constitutional carry, which is great, fantastic. We absolutely love the idea of being able to carry. Now, I know if you're like me, it should be 50 states allow concealed carry within that state boundary. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, in my opinion, is enough for us to be allowed to carry concealed across the United States, just like our driver's license is recognized. But man, I digress. That's a whole different story. But the problem is with those 21 states, you just go in, you take a class, you pay the fee. It could be 4, it could be 8 hours, depending on what state you're in, maybe a little bit more in some other states. I don't know every state's rule as far as the concealed carry class is. But then you take your paperwork to the sheriff's office and you get your permit. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of people stop. And the downside, I know this is going to catch me some heat. The downside with the constitutional carry states, those 29 states across the United States, is there is no training. Now, I understand that you can't put stipulations on a right. I totally get that. In fact, in the state of Idaho, when we adopted constitutional carry, Representative Ron Nate, I talked to him face to face. In fact, I recorded that interview. I have no idea where that information is. That was quite a while ago. That was like 2016, 2014, somewhere around there. I don't remember for sure. But I talked to Representative Ron Nate about that, and he told me straight up, Steve, you cannot regulate a constitutional right. And I do agree with that. But as far as somebody who has run ranges and taught classes and seen how some people handle their firearms, and some of those have had no training, it does make me a little bit nervous. Now, this, like I said, I know this might rub some people the wrong way. Though you may not need to get training, you probably should get training before you carry a firearm for self-defense. And we're going to get into some of those reasons why. And there are some very legitimate reasons why you should get some education before you carry a life-saving tool. And now, along with those 21 states that allow or require those classes, there usually is a certain amount of rounds required. In Idaho, for example, if you take the enhanced permit, we have 2 different permits in the state of Idaho. The enhanced has greater reciprocity and also requires a portion of the training class to be kind of the legal obligations as a concealed carry holder and possible repercussions of using a firearm in self-defense, which is great. I think everybody should have that information. And then we shoot 99 rounds, and that meets the requirements, that 8-hour class and 99 rounds. That is the requirement for the state of Idaho for our enhanced state permit. Now, the thing is I've taught that class. I've taught a lot of students that class. What happens is there is a portion that believe that that's it. They're trained. That's all they need to know. They're good. Now, that is a problem, in my opinion. That is a big problem. You shouldn't just stop your education right there. That should be the beginning of a journey. We talk about the 2A space, your journey through this whole thing. It is a journey for reals. As you learn more and more about firearms, about how to carry, the techniques, and the nuances all through it, that is a big journey. And it scares me that people stop at one class. That makes me really nervous. Now, hear me out. I'm not bashing or any way criticizing those states and those those concealed carry classes. But let's be real. That is more of a lawyer hunting permit, if you will, than a defensive carry badge. Because it is easy for these individuals to fall prey and make some major mistakes that could land them in jail or worse because they didn't take the time to really learn more about the importance of and the obligations of concealed carry in their life and adding that to their lifestyle. It's a huge risk. All right, let's paint this hypothetical picture for you real quick so you can kind of see where I'm coming from. You took your state's permit class. You've met the minimum requirements to get that permit. You buy a nice handgun at the best that you can afford, which is commendable. But you jump to a everybody fits all gun bucket of a holster that you found in some big box store. You decide to appendix carry because that's what the cool dudes on YouTube do. You think it's quicker. You may have dry fired once or twice since you took that class 5 years ago, but you've never really worked on getting that gun out of a holster in a seated position, or maybe pretend you're in a car or something, trying to get that gun out in an efficient manner, safely and on target. Of course, you're going to drive. You're not going to just pull a gun out in your car. Maybe you will, but let's not. You get the point. You've taken a class, you think you're good enough, and you've just done the least amount of due diligence on your part to make you feel safe. Now let's jump to the contrast. You've taken that class, you've met the minimum requirements, you got that permit, but then you start carrying, and then you realize, hey, this holster doesn't really fit the way I want. You get a different holster that fits the gun better. Then you take a class about how to manipulate that gun out of a holster better. You do dry fire practice, and then you continue to work on incrementally getting better. Now, in those two instances, there are two very different gun owners, and I have met and dealt with both types of gun owners. Yes, like I mentioned, I've taught concealed weapons classes before. You get the group of people that just take that one class and they feel like that is absolutely enough. But then you get the second group of people that are excited about the journey and they want to learn more. And as they learn more, they refine their tactics, they refine their hardware and their software, and become a better, more proficient, and safer concealed carry holder. There is a vast difference between the two. Some training is good, yes, but getting more training and understanding the principles is so much better. And the more classes you take, the more you realize you need to take more classes. Here's a data point. I don't remember where I've heard this, but it was the Force. Let me look it up here. It's in my notes. The Force Science Institute. They said if you don't work on your skills, you will lose 20 to 30% within 90 days of your skills and accuracy. 20 to 30% within 90 days. Now think about the last time you went to the range, and I can attest to this. Like, I know what it's like to go through a dry spell and not hit the range and then realize, holy shnikes, I got to work on it. It happens, and it's something that you need to keep working on. That one firearms class you took 2 years ago and then never hit the range again, but you're carrying every day, that could be more of a liability than a blessing and a statement, I guess, if you will. Really, if you think about it, one class, like if we look at that, there's 4 pillars of importance or development that one class cannot cover, at least not in depth, and really help you learn. Let's dive into those 4 pillars and see what I'm talking about, and see if you're like catching my drift here. So the first one would be safety under stress. Now, shooting on a static range at a paper target for the minimum required rounds, sure, that might work. Maybe you go to the range a lot. That would be great. But there's a difference when you increase your heart rate, or stress and adrenaline kicks in and other things are happening. The body does crazy things under stress and under an adrenaline dump. If you've ever been in a fight or ever been in a car accident, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. Your body does weird things when the elevated heart rate or when that adrenaline dump comes in. Strange things are going to happen. And one firearms class, especially a basic class that meets the minimum state requirements for a concealed weapons permit, isn't really going to help you address and learn how to navigate through or develop new skills to get past those adrenaline dumps or those elevated heart rate, that kind of thing. One class cannot do that. It's important to understand and learn how to manage your stress under a situation like that. Let's just use a hypothetical story here, and I'm sure you could find anecdotal evidence of maybe situations like this that have happened or somebody else might have told you. Let's just say there's this dude named Mike, right? Mike took this class 2 years ago, took his concealed weapons class, and is very confident in his abilities, but he's never taken any other training since that 2 years. He's at the gas station in the middle of the night, something happens, some dudes pull up, altercations happen, or maybe they're threatening in some way. He draws his gun, but under that elevated stress level, he has his finger on the trigger as he pulls, and he dumps around into the concrete. I think, well, at least it's in the concrete, not into something that, we don't want to hit. But what if it wasn't? What if he accidentally shot into another car, or maybe something fragmented and bounced into his leg, or, something could happen where he's not really inoculating the stress out of his situation. One class will not teach you how to deal with that kind of stuff. Whereas maybe if he took several classes or went to some competitions or found some other classes that elevate his stress levels and help him navigate what his body is doing under stress, things may turn out different. Now, again, that's a hypothetical, but I'm sure you can find videos online where stuff like that has happened. Now, what do I mean by that? By saying that maybe there's other classes that can help him. Yes, more advanced training will help you do this. You need to find something that will inoculate from stress. Now, I have taken some classes. In fact, in the Cerebus class episode, I don't remember what number it was, but it was a class that I took in Boise. Man, by now it's been a year and a half ago, maybe. I don't remember for sure. Crazy class, like definite adrenaline dump by the end of that class. We had to do all sorts of different stuff between, putting on tourniquets and a crazy class. But it helps you inoculate from that stress, those stressful situations. Getting into real lifestyle-ish training will help you figure that out. Also, honestly, airsoft is of course, it's not going to be the same as somebody shooting at you, obviously, but paintball and airsoft, it hurts when you get hit by somebody who knows how to do it. Plus, it elevates your heart rate, brings that adrenaline dump up in there, and it helps you understand how your body is going to react. Another thing that can help you with that, I don't know if you've ever done jujitsu or hand-to-hand stuff, martial arts type stuff. Same kind of concept. I know it's not a gun, but it helps you see how your body reacts under stressful situations. And if you've ever rolled around for 2 minutes on the mat with somebody that's a purple belt and you're not even quite a white belt because you don't really go that often, that's stressful. It's stressful. I can just ask me how I know. Good, solid training, more advanced classes, more than a basic or the minimum required class for your state's concealed carry are essential. And you're going to hear me talk about that nonstop. It is so important for you to take more classes than just one. All right, the second pillar is a big deal. And it's understanding the legal side, having some legal literacy more than just whatever you've learned from your buddy or taking a minimum class. Now, I mentioned that Idaho State has, in their enhanced permit class, they require, it ends up being like probably 2 hours. It depends on the attorney giving the lecture, going through a bunch of the state laws about how you're protected or what may happen in the aftermath. But they don't really dive into the legal side of using a gun. And so many people fall prey to this. That is exactly the reason why USCCA and Right to Bear and attorneys on retainer and all these other services exist, is because people aren't learning the legal side and they fall trap or prey to these attorneys. And man, every time you press that trigger and a round comes out of that barrel, just think that there is an attorney attached to that round. You're going to get sued. You're going to get sued no matter what. If you use your gun, like, somebody will find a reason to sue you. And it's important for you to understand that you will not get that unless very rare cases or some awesome instructors are really including it. But you're probably not going to get any real legal literacy in those concealed carry classes. Now, I know a range here in Idaho Falls, I don't know if he teaches it anymore, but he used to have something called the didactic, I think is what he called it, the didactic handgun class, which really was kind of the legal portion, which is awesome. And it's important to seek that out. A booklet isn't going to tell you that. Like, I'll just say the USCCA, in their booklet they give you, it kind of touches on that information. I mean, I'm a USCCA instructor, so I've handed that book out a ton. And yeah, there's some good information in there, but it's really generalized. It's not state specific. Every state has laws that may not be the same as another state, right? When it comes to deadly force or life-threatening situations, you need to learn. And again, you're not going to get that out of one class. I don't know if you ever heard of Andrew Bronca. I don't have his book down here. It's upstairs. The Law of Self-Defense. He's written that book. Great book. But, I mean, that's more than you'll ever get anywhere else, just having his book and reading it. Left to Bang is another book. I haven't read that. I've heard it's a fantastic book. There's a lot. You think about, look at Kyle Rittenhouse. Right? Look at that case. He was well over $1 million in his defense, and he still can get sued on the other end of that, right? The civil action, right? Sure, the criminal stuff might be out, but he could get sued civilly. There's so much there that I cannot impress on your mind how important that is. Also, what you might get in some of these other classes is like the difference between the castle doctrine or duty to retreat. Those are two very different things. And every state, or your state at least, might look at things differently than my state. We have something kind of like a castle doctrine here in Idaho, but some states may have a duty to retreat, or their castle doctrine may not be the exact same verbiage as what I have in my state, or vice versa. You're not going to get that from a basic class. You need to get more training on that end to help you navigate the really bad things that could come out on the other end. Another thing, I know we talk about it when I teach the class, at least a little bit. Man, it's been a while since I taught that class in Boise, but kind of the post-incident 911 call, the things you should say, the things you shouldn't say in that communication. There's some instructors will touch on that. I know I have before, but you may not get that in a basic minimum required state class. It's super important. Some of the things you say, I mean, it can and will be held against you. Like, you really got to think about that kind of stuff. And then I touched on the civil side, the civil liability. You may not get charged criminally, but that civil side, man, that's wide open. And there's a lot of people that fall prey to the civil court system. We live in a very litigious society, and people find any way possible to sue you, especially if you have to use a firearm in defense of your life. The family of that individual that attacked you may not see the things that you saw, or they may feel differently. And we see that all the time on the news when stuff like this happens. The third pillar, man, I can't talk. The third pillar in this conversation would be gear, and then integration of that gear into your daily carry methods. You're not really going to get a lot of that in these classes if you take one class. You may have graduated on your journey through, right? Some people, I've seen this before. I've sold lots of guns too, back in my day at the gun counter, where people might start with one gun and realize, man, I don't like the way this gun feels. I don't like how this gun carries, or the recoil is really not that great. Or maybe I've had some malfunctions, right? That kind of thing. So they buy a nice new gun, but then they have to buy a new holster. Then they have to decide, well, where am I going to carry? Am I going to carry outside or inside the waistband? Am I going to carry appendix? Am I going to carry, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever, right? They have to make that decision. But then they have to understand how to deploy that life-saving device in a timely manner with the clothes that they're wearing, and so on. You're not going to get a lot of this information in a basic class. This is something that probably is going to be a defensive handgun class at the minimum, or something later. A buddy of mine, Spartan Mode, Adam Boyce, we've talked about this ad nauseum, about kind of that shady area between the basic firearms class to meet the requirements for a permit, and then a defensive handgun class. I think there's kind of a void in between there that's not being taught, right? There's almost like an intermediate. There's the beginner in the first class, and then kind of a novice by the defensive class. But there's a problem there that's not being filled, and you're not going to get that information in a basic class. That's why training and then taking these the new stuff you bought to a defensive class at a next level, to understand how to deploy it safely, methods of carry, how to draw when you're sitting down, that kind of thing. I can't stress this enough. Hopefully you guys are picking up what I'm trying to put down here, and understand why training and education is so important. All right, here's one that I do think is extremely important. Maybe this should have been the first one, but it didn't really flow right. Is the medical side of things, and then understanding how to develop the mindset, the software, if you will, that my buddy Steve with 3 Tier talks about. Let's start with the medical side. Obviously, you're not going to get any kind of medical training in a basic handgun class, or the class that meets the requirements for your state's concealed carry. There's just so much information there. It's impossible to fit it in an 8-hour class. A good medical class is 8 hours on its own. Like, there's just too much information to share. So seeking out a good, even if it's a stop bleed class, that is probably the very first thing you should do. If you can find a tactical first aid class. I know a lot of the ranges, like the range in Boise that I used to teach at all the time, they have a great first aid class that kind of ties into the concealed carry side. It is so important to understand that you need the training to make the holes, but you also should have the training to plug those same holes. I remember when I first started actually teaching and working on the range here in Idaho Falls, when back in the day when I really got into 2A as a profession. By the time we did a TCCC class basically. It was kind of a condensed version. But once I understood how tourniquets work and how to pack a wound and like joint care, like how to stop the bleed at a joint, all the way to sucking chest wounds, which is a lot. Like, we're not going to talk about that because that's a big wound. But I started to realize the importance of having tourniquets, having the gear that you need. That's why I've shown you my shooting belt, not my duty belt, but my competition rig at least, has my IFAK or one of my IFAKs on that belt, because I understand the importance that medical equipment is needed. Like, even if it's not the bad guy, what if I need to save one of my kids? What if there's a car accident and I need to deploy some of my medical knowledge or my gear? I'm probably far more likely to need medical gear than I am to need to get to my firearm or my knife. It's so important. And then when we jump to mindset, I mean, that is, again, we talk about developing the software. You have the hardware skills, you have the equipment, but learning how to use that stuff in case of some kind of an emergency, then learning other skills as far even like getting out of a building or communicating to kind of de-escalate, and then using the mindset development to know how to deploy that stuff is, man, it's so important. You know, a lot of people, untrained or low trained people, they have a delay. Like, it can't happen to me, or they're trying, like, their brain is trying to figure out what's going on. Well, that delay, which could be up to maybe 2 seconds, man, that could be their life or their loved one. And developing a good mindset helps them navigate that before it even happens. Like, they've learned these skills to see the threat before it happens and understand what the next step is. Mindset is crucial. And that's really where force on force, I'm leaving it in there, I don't care. Force on force or scenario-based training, that really helps you navigate that whole mindset thing. It helps you develop better thinking skills and faster thinking skills. I mean, you don't really necessarily think faster, but you get through the problems quicker. All right, now this is where I'm going to piss a few people off. And I don't care, because we need to talk about this. If you're one of those people that have, I've been shooting my whole life since I was 6 years old with my grandpappy, I don't need no highfalutin instructor teaching me how to hold my gun. Well, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because I don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. Let's start with there. You have no idea what you don't know. Plus, who's to say if the skills that grandpappy taught you were even correct? Like, how do you know that's the best way to do something? You don't know, right? Muscle memory is not a skill. You're not developing anything. Just because you can shoot a can off a fence at 25 feet doesn't mean you'll be able to react proficiently and quickly in a defensive situation. Sure, you might have accuracy. That's great. Like, you're learning some skills. All right, I get it. But those cans aren't shooting back. Like, that doesn't really correlate in a life or death situation. Where classes can help you develop. Again, you do not know what you don't know. Grandpappy probably taught you something that may have been taught back in World War II. Sure, that's great. But so many things have changed. Firearms changed. Technology has changed. Understanding of biomechanics has changed. Just skills and manipulation, methods of carry. Like, so many things have changed from Grandpappy's day that help shooters become faster and more efficient and with better equipment than stuff they had back in the day. Yes, I get it. I have a 1911. Actually, I have a couple of 1911s. Great firearms, all that jive, cool, grand. But there's new things out there. There's new holsters. There's new methods. There's so much more out there that Grandpappy just didn't teach you. Now, to be fair, I have shot USPSA matches where I have a buddy named Tim. He's a lot older than me. He's about my dad's. Well, he's younger than my dad. Absolutely dusted me in a USPSA match, and he was shooting a revolver, and I was shooting my Glock, and he just decimated that run. Better shots, like just so much better. I get it, but guess what? He's taken classes. He's developed skills. He's honed on the stuff he knew and got better and faster. And he's using different techniques than he did when he first started shooting. Things are better than they used to be, right? He's learned. He didn't stop learning. And you shouldn't either. Right? You really need more training. I just straight up. And here's another major problem with that mindset is there's a bit of an ego there, right? And the graveyard is full of egotistical shooters. From Boot Hill back in the Western days to now, right? Your ego can only take you so far. It's skills that really matter. And a humble shooter is going to take the time to learn more skills, to take criticism, and to learn. You know, being humble is also being teachable. They're going to learn better. They're going to learn quicker, and they're going to be willing to admit when they're wrong. And I've had to be there too. Like, I've had to admit I've been wrong before and learn new skills. You have to be better. So you convinced yet? You convinced that you need to take some more classes, to develop some skills, to broaden your understanding and your horizons on your 2A journey? I hope so. I hope you're taking this information and thinking, I do need to take another class, because I need to take another class. Man, I took my kid shooting with my daughter-in-law and their friends. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. I didn't do as much shooting as I wanted to do, and I couldn't do the things I wanted to practice because I had to make sure what was going on around me was safe. Still a good time. I had fun. Yep, it was great. But I still need to take more classes. I need more training. And we'll get into some stuff I really, really want to take. And I was hoping to take some this year. It just wasn't in the cards. There were so many things that happened this year that just drained the old bank account. So let's develop kind of a roadmap for you. Well, that was a quick transition, wasn't it? Let's develop a pathway. What do they call that in construction? I can't remember what it's called now. It was in my brain and then it disappeared. Critical path. Let's develop a critical path for your training. Do you like that knife hand? Yeah, I bet you like it. Let's try this. So I kind of drew up a 3-year plan, if you will. And you can tweak this how you want. But let's start with this. And maybe you've already done this. The first thing you should take is a basic handgun class, or whatever class is minimally required for your state permit. Okay? I would consider that a basic handgun class. Start there. And then what I want you to do for the next couple of months after that is just work on the skills that you learned there. Do a lot of dry fire at home. I've got a video about dry firing. We can talk about that. There's lots of videos all over the internet about dry firing. Work on those skills. And then, okay, next quarter, let's talk the first quarter. Let's divide the year into quarters, that first year. Man, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. So that's the first quarter, right? The basic handgun class. Second quarter, jump into, as much as I hate to say it, jump into an NRA basic class or a USCCA home defense type class. I think it's called Basics of Home Defense or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I know in my state, at least that's the curriculum I actually use in when I teach the concealed weapons permit in the state of Idaho. So, maybe there's something else you can tweak there a little bit, but jump into maybe a defensive handgun class, right? Jump into something that's going to test your skills a little bit more than what you've learned in that first class. Okay. Now, by the 6 month, the 6 month thing, jump into a little bit hot and heavy, more move and shoot pistol class, right? Find something that's like a defensive class where you're drawing from the holster. Maybe you're shooting from different positions. Do that. Okay. Then by, I guess it's not really quarters. It's every 3 months, not 4 months. So
what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
So month number 9. So don't just totally erase what I said about quarters. It's every 3 months.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
No. Yeah, whatever. Just whatever.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.
By month 9, I want you to take a low light or no light pistol class. Some of the funnest classes I've ever taken are low light classes because it forces you to shoot one-handed in some cases with a handheld flashlight, or understand the importance and kind of the theory behind having a weapons mounted light and moving around and seeing things and not splashing off the walls and blinding you and losing your nighttime sight type stuff. Low light classes are a ton of fun. Okay. After that, I want you to find some kind of a first aid or stop the bleed class, and then take that information to heart. Also, on that 12th month thing, the end of your first year, I want you to work on all your skills that you worked on that entire year. Keep building on those skills. Maybe even take one of those classes that you took before in the beginning of your journey, just to remember some of the basics. That's your first year. Okay. Dive into that, work on that. Now, year 2. Let me scroll down here to my notes. If you can find any kind of, I don't know how to, I would say vehicle type class, like how to manipulate your firearm in a moving vehicle. These classes are a little bit more high speed. They're kind of harder to find in some states. And if you can't find that, jump to a carbine class, a basic carbine class. You're going to love basic carbine, by the way. There's tons of fun. Find something that'll just kind of test your skills and build on the stuff that you already know. So if you can find a vehicle class or some kind of a tactics class, totally rad if you can. If not, basic carbine. Okay. If you can find some kind of force on force, or you can jump to maybe getting involved in airsoft, really start to understand how that kind of works, how the skills you've learned from that previous year dive into moving and shooting and threat identification, that kind of stuff. Force on force, if you can find anything like that, super, super rad. Okay. Again, this kind of comes into what I just said. Join USPSA or some kind of IDPA league in your area. First of all, you're going to have tons of fun. Yes, it does get a little bit expensive at times, especially if you don't have all the gear necessary to play the game. It's so much fun. In fact, my skills and my accuracy and my speed, right, that all that stuff just was being honed when I gamified, those skills. I love USPSA. I think it is so much fun. Again, it costs a little bit of money. It's not a break the bank thing, but it's not free either. It can get expensive. Even if you decide not to join yet, go watch a couple of matches. Some people are willing to let you shoot a stage or two just so you can get your feet wet. So much fun. And then again, that last thing, the end of year 2, take some refresher classes again. Hone those skills a little bit better. Just develop the basics, because the basics are going to really be the key. All right, year 3. Okay, you ready for this? This is your 3rd year. Find maybe a different class. If you didn't take a carbine class that year 2, jump in, find a good carbine class year 3. I love carbine classes. Maybe even the next level of carbine class. So cool. I love to work with the carbine. next thing is class is something I've wanted to take for so long, but I haven't really looked in my area too much. Is I want to do a defensive shotgun class. The shotgun is such a dynamic tool, very versatile. You can use it for hunting or self-defense. Super awesome, awesome tool. Find a good, solid defensive shotgun class, and you're going to have to buy a good, solid defensive shotgun, obviously, to take that class. But man, it sounds so much fun. Now, about halfway through year 3, you need to find a better medical class. Find something like a TCCC class, a major trauma class. Maybe see if you can find that Cerebus class that I was talking about that I took last year or a year and a half ago. Something that's really going to force you outside of your comfort zone when it comes to trauma medical, but something that's very, very necessary. I really, really like those kind of classes. Those are my favorite classes to take, honestly, are the medical classes. And then maybe by the end of year 3, maybe it's time that you work on instructor certifications. Maybe you've got to the point where you love it so much. Maybe you want to be an instructor and help other people on their journey too. It's a ton of fun. I really enjoy it. You're not going to get filthy rich off of it by any means. You'll probably spend a lot more money than you think you're going to spend on it, but it's super fun to help people on that journey. Now, mixed into all of this stuff and stuff you should be doing all the time, I want you to do dry fire practice, 10 minutes a day if you can get into it. Nice thing is, it's absolutely free other than your time. Good, solid, focused dry fire practice, especially with your everyday carry tools. It's invaluable. It's amazing how much that can help you. Big deal here is budget accordingly. Diving into these classes, buying the ammo, buying the gear, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. You can make it as affordable as possible, but don't buy junk. Buy quality stuff. And that means you probably are going to have to make a good solid budget on your defensive stuff, because it can get really expensive. I mean, some of these high-end classes, I mean, you're going to be, $1,500 plus your ammunition. It gets really expensive, and I understand that. But you're going to develop skills that maybe 2% of the population has, and it's going to be so much better for you and your family and your community or your church or whatever that you're planning on to, defending. Like, it goes a long, long ways. Like, what's it worth to you? Is it worth a cup of coffee? You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty important. Another thing, maybe you're a gal and you don't want to be with all those macho dudes that think they know everything. Maybe you need to find some specialized classes, some ladies only type stuff. Maybe join a ladies only group. Some ranges have ladies nights where it's just the ladies that get to shoot. I know we tried doing that here in the range in Isle Falls when I was working there years ago. There's lots of avenues. I understand dudes can be a little abrasive and kind of overbearing sometimes, all the time, honestly. Maybe you need to find some specialized training that way. Again, like, it's not cheap. It's not a cheap endeavor to get good training. Like they say, good isn't cheap and cheap isn't good, right? There's you need to develop those skills, and you're gonna have to set money aside. I guess that's where I'm gonna finish talking about that one. All right, let's wrap this up so you guys can get back to your day. You've probably been sitting on the toilet for too long by now anyways. Owning a gun is kind of like adopting a pit bull from the pound. Yeah, it's kind of cool and it can be kind of fun, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility and maybe some understanding on the process, okay? You need to train, and you need to train, and then you need to train some more, and you need to take more classes, and then you need to develop the mindset, but you need to take those classes to understand how that mindset works in your situation. I cannot tell you enough. One class or no class is not enough. It's not. It's insufficient, and it's bad for you. It's bad for you. You need to learn. We are here on this earth to learn and grow and develop some skills. So develop some skills and learn more, okay? Do it. Do it now. You don't want to be the guy that says, man, I wish I would have taken more classes. You want to be the guy or gal that says, man, I'm sure glad I took that class. It's better to know and not need it instead of needing it and not having it. I know that completely butchered that up, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like it's you need it. You just need it. You need it. So I want to hear your training stories. If you've taken some awesome classes, I want you to shout out, those instructors or where you took that class. I want people to know where to take those good classes. But on the other hand, if you've taken classes that were not so good, I want you to share your experience, but I don't want you to share that instructor's information. That's a no, okay? We're not here to rag on other people, but I'm definitely here to help build other people up. So I want to hear your training stories. I want to hear the why. Like, why did you take that class and what did you learn? We need to grow together, right? This is a journey that we are all on together. And my whole thing here is to help other people find that path and walk that journey with us. We need to take more people shooting. That is not just a moniker. I know they say that all the time, but you need to take more people to the range and experience how fun and safe shooting really is and the reality of our Second Amendment rights. Because it's not just a gun, by the way. Second Amendment isn't just about firearms. It's about any life-saving tool that we are allowed to keep and carry on us. So keep that in mind. So that's it. That's the show. I want you to remember how important it is to take more training, find those classes, seek more education so you can be a better and safer gun owner and share that responsibility with those around you and how important it is. Also, take somebody shooting. Just said it. I'm going to say it again. Take someone shooting. Okay? I'll let you go. Stay armed. Stay safe. And stay range-minded. See you guys. Love you.